Teachers of Reddit, what is the most disturbing thing your student has ever done? I teach 4-year-olds part-time, which means I usually do art and recreation in the afternoons. There's this girl in my class, let's call her Mary, who is a tiny terror that frequently runs around making other kids cry. Her moves are very calculated: a hair pull, kicking a toy over, snatching art. She waits until the other child is crying before she relents. She never wants the toy, just the reaction. On the other hand, this boy, Jim, is her polar opposite and often the voice of reason in my class. He's a gentle giant, the biggest kid in preschool. He shares happily, is kind during playtime, and is probably the most thoughtful human I've ever met. Well, one day during outside time, Mary kept targeting Jim. He was pretty good-natured the whole time. She would snatch a shovel from him and he would respond kindly by saying, "It's okay, you can have it, toys are for sharing," stuff like that. Sidebar: remember those giant red and yellow cars that kids sit in and pedal with their feet? The yard has 5 for the kids to share. Mary was leaning against a wall, and Jim pushing one of those cars. The kids like running around with them, so that was normal. Jim was probably a good 30 feet away from her when he suddenly started accelerating. He was aimed like a homing missile, pointing straight at poor clueless Mary, genuinely believed he would turn away at the last minute or stop. I was wrong. He slammed the car right into Mary, effectively crunching her against the wall. I'll never forget how long it took for her to inhale. I was shaking, I thought he cracked her ribs. Her entire back was bruised, but thankfully no further damage. I was too shocked to be angry. After passing Mary to my co-teacher, I turned to Jim, who was sulking in the corner, and asked, "Why did you do that?" He just shrugged and very calmly said, "I was just trying to take care of our problem, 100% scared of this kid now." Middle school English teacher. I had a student pull a tooth out of his own head to get out of silent reading. It was a baby tooth, thank God, but according to Mom it was not loose. He just sat at his desk and grabbed it and yanked it back and forth and popped it out and came up to the desk bleeding all over himself and said he wasn't able to read anymore, so could he just put his head down. He was sent to the nurse and Mom was horrified. Damn, that book must have really sucked. That is the thing, it was his choice. He could literally read anything he wanted. Comics, sports magazines, shitty Wattpad fanfiction, anything he wants, and he still won't do it. I had a girl who couldn't be in the classroom and had to be on a 1-to-1 with me at all times. But she couldn't be in the classroom because she was extremely violent and deliberately stabbed another child in the eye with a colored pencil, then laughed about it. The other child had to be hospitalized. When we asked her why she did it, she started laughing again and said, "Because I wanted to." She would also randomly attack kids on the playground and in the halls. When they put her on a 1-to-1 with me and she couldn't do that anymore, she started attacking me on a daily basis. She was 4. Holy crap. This is basically one of my main clients. I work in a group home for the mentally disabled, handicapped. A lot of my clients are prone to outbursts of some kind. But I have this one client. Since he was old enough to stand by himself, he's been insanely violent. Stabbing anyone that came close enough. Running away. Biting, hitting, kicking, spitting. You name it. Hell, throw his head back and just absolutely smash it into pulp if you don't intervene. But the thing is, he laughs the entire time. If you ask him why he just hurt someone, he'll laugh and tell you it's fun, or he doesn't know, and just does it. He's insanely smart. But insanely manipulative. He'll invent intricate reasons to isolate staff or his family members just so he can attack them. I can't even tell you how many scars I have from him alone. His family refuses to acknowledge that something is seriously wrong and that he's actually genuinely hurting people in severe ways. So our hands are tied and there isn't really anything we as staff can do about it. After working with him for several years, it's clear as day that he never actually feels joy or happiness unless he's hurting something. Everything he does is manipulation or a lure for an attack. I had a 5th grade student pick up 2 brick-sized rocks and try and stone another kid to death. Kids in my mom's class tried to poison another little girl they were having a feud with. They tampered with her snack, and put things like sharp staples and hand sanitizer in it. They also put pencil lead in thinking it would harm her. Obviously ultimately harmless, but the intent was there. I'm glad one of the little boys involved came up to my mom and let her know what the plan was out of guilt. They're in 4th grade, old enough to know better, and to know what eating harmful things can do to a person. Recently had one of my students tell a pregnant teacher that he wanted to punch her in the stomach. Another student said, "You can't do that, she's pregnant." The first student then said, "That's the point, these are 5th graders." This is also in a school that rarely has behavior problems, so this was quite a shock. Something similar happened to me when I was pregnant with my first. A student told me he was going to make me lose the baby. It's the only time I've really ever flipped out on a student in my 7 years of teaching. That student had some serious issues, though, and by the end of the school year I was the only teacher he would talk to about the shit that went on his life, bouncing from foster home to foster home, abuse, etc. He left a letter on my desk at the end of the year saying that my unborn child was incredibly lucky to have me as a mom. I ugly cried at my desk when I read it. Edit. Also, this wasn't even close to the worst thing a student has ever done in class. It was just the most emotional I got because I was pregnant and hormonal. My reply to this question is here, if you're curious. I was a preschool teacher at the time. I was doing group time, singing songs, reading a book, and all the kids were sitting on the floor. One left to blow her nose. She came back, walked through the crowd of kids to get back to her spot, grabbed a quiet girl's hair, and kept walking. My assistant thought it was a mistake, but the girl kept walking. She even bent at the knees and yanked while the poor long-haired girl screamed. That girl had no remorse and would be so unpredictable. She would look in your eyes, but right through them. It was a stressful year. What ended up happening with the girl? The hair-pulling one. She had some neglect issues during infancy and had a fantastic grandmother who was doing everything she could. She still had some problems, but no psychopath tendencies from what I was told. I last heard of her doing well in 1st grade. Phew. I was a supervisor for a special program that involved about 20 students that were expelled from other schools. Most of them were known gang members. The program had a strict no bandana policy. One day Kid 1, M16, stole Kid 2's, M17, cigarettes while Kid 2 was in an office session about his homework. We found out later that Kid 1 thought it was hilarious and was laughing about it. Kid 2 goes for his smokes during break and can't find them. He proceeds to flip out and start screaming about how he's going to fuck someone up. No one admitted it. We de-escalated the situation and later took him to the store to buy a new pack for him. A few days go by and Kid 1 gets ratted out by another student who was in the same gang as Kid 2. We didn't know any of this was going on at the time. One afternoon during a group session, we would have them sit in a circle during some lessons, instead of at desks. Out of nowhere these two boys jump up and yell, "Yo Kid 1," as they literally run at him and proceed to beat him up right in front of everyone until the staff broke it up. All 3 got expelled after that and I have no idea what happened to them, although I can imagine some scenarios based on how committed they were to gang life. I'm sat here thinking how strange and yet how helpful it is for teachers to take a kid to the store to buy cigarettes. They shouldn't be smoking, nobody should. But by taking them to get cigs after theirs were stolen you stopped them getting stressed from nicotine withdrawal. You also guaranteed they came back to class after a very quick trip to the store. If they'd stormed out they probably wouldn't have come back to class that day and might have been penalized for an unauthorized absence. I'm guessing that staff in a special program for teens with gang affiliations know which battles to pick. I caught some kid trying to take inappropriate photos of his lady friends in the class. When I noticed him doing something fishy, he was directly aiming the camera to where the female students were sitting. I told him to hand over the phone and he got visibly uncomfortable but complied. I handed it over to his form tutor, who was a lady, and explained the situation. I figured if there were any photos of female students it wouldn't be okay for me to see it. First sweep through his documents didn't reveal anything, but luckily I thought of suggesting her to check the hidden category and I'm told everything was in there. School took disciplinary action as a result. School sucked bad enough before smartphones came on the scene. I couldn't imagine what it's like now. Double-edged sword. I would have liked it as the internet has made me more social, but I would think the harassing and bullying would be so much worse and harder for teachers to see. I was a teaching assistant for an EBD school, had one of the students try to stab me in the throat with a knife repeatedly during class. No one gave a shit, so I quit and moved on. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one.